Hi, my name's Dee Murphy. I write and draw a webcomic I co-created with my friend Emily called With Fetus, set in an abortion clinic and dealing with a variety of issues the clinic faces. The general goal of the comic is to discuss abortion-related issues in an accepting, open-minded, and non-argumentative fashion to lessen some of the stigma surrounding abortion. Recent Gallup polls show that public opinion has recently shifted to the point where 50% of the population identify themselves as pro-life as opposed to 41% identifying themselves as pro-choice. Pro-choice advocates have come forward claiming that the poll fails to clearly define the terms and the definitions of pro-life and pro-choice fail to cover some of the nuance that people assign them. For example, the same poll found that 52% of the population believe abortion should be legal in at least some circumstances, while only 25% believed abortion should be illegal in all circumstances. Personally, I never plan to have an abortion, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a male and therefore it's medically impossible for me to get pregnant and the choice will never fully be my own. I strive to be responsible with my sexual behavior, and if something happened where an unintended pregnancy occurred, I'd need to give serious thought to the idea of aborting that pregnancy. But I've never had to make such a decision. Unlike half the female population of the United States will, according to research gathered by Stanley K. Henshaw. That's right, half the female population in America will, at some point in their life, have an unintended pregnancy, meaning that at least half the female population in America will be faced with the decision of terminating an unintended pregnancy. Now, obviously, not every woman is going to terminate that unintended pregnancy for a variety of reasons. But considering the physical strain a woman may face while enduring a pregnancy, not to mention the problems associated with both raising a child and putting one up for adoption, for as idealistically as pro-life supporters tend to be about the adoption system in this country, there's a huge disparity between the children put up for adoption and the children that are actually adopted. Healthy white babies frequently get adopted with little or no difficulty, but disabled and minority children, especially African American and Hispanic children, are infrequently adopted and often left in the foster care system where there's considerably high potential for abuse, mistreatment, and the potential to become involved in gangs and criminal organizations, becoming huge burdens on our criminal and judicial systems, not to mention the taxes that we contributed to support their neglectful foster care. So I don't think it's unreasonable or even shameful that a woman may choose to abort. Unfortunately, the efforts of some political organizations, such as the Susan B. Anthony List, are making professionally licensed abortions more and more difficult to obtain, which does nothing to affect the unintended pregnancy rate, increase medical care for pregnant women, protect pregnant women and mothers on the job, or improve the foster care system. It also doesn't change the demand for abortions. When legal abortion isn't an option, a woman doesn't stop considering having one. Most research indicates that women in that situation turn to alternative, less safe options. Rumors have persisted for years of terminating a pregnancy by drinking bleach or using a coat hanger or throwing oneself down a staircase to induce a miscarriage. Not only are these methods way less effective than a professional medical procedure, they also have a high potential for causing serious injury or even death. I've heard all kinds of stories of women arriving in the ER with serious infections due to trying to perform an abortion on themselves. Easy access to legalized abortion would reduce many of these cases of serious health risks to women, not to mention greater recognitions of cases of rape or abuse that led to the unintended pregnancies by destigmatizing the process of asking for help. But organizations like the Susan B. Anthony List seem determined to limit access to legal abortion. So I suggest we send them supplies to help deal with the demand they're creating for the considerably less safe option. The Susan B. Anthony List is headquartered in Washington, D.C., a city with a population of roughly 600,000 people. Of that population, I'm going to estimate that half that group is female, and using the metric I mentioned earlier, half of them will have an unintended pregnancy in their lifetime. So that leaves us with 150,000 women who will have an unintended pregnancy. So I'm suggesting we send the Susan B. Anthony List 150,000 wire coat hangers to handle the demand they're creating for unlicensed abortions, as they're clearly in support of this practice, and I just want to help them gather supplies. A letter describing all this information would also be included with the shipment of the wire hangers, explaining the realities of the women they're clearly ignoring, represented by each wire hanger they receive. I've made rough estimates of the cost involved to buy and ship the hangers to Washington, D.C., and calculate the total cost to be in the range of about $22,000. Could this money be better used to support an organization dedicated to women's health like Planned Parenthood? Probably. But much like my goal of changing public attitudes towards abortion with my comic, the intention of this project is to raise awareness for why abortion should be legalized. Because do you really want to be supporting this alternative? Hopefully, this can change perception across America and encourage favorable pro-choice legislation that will be more beneficial to pro-choice organizations in the long term than immediate direct donations. Though, if you'd like to make a direct donation to a pro-choice organization, you're more than welcome to do so, and several options can be located quite easily online. But if you'd like to donate to me as an alternative or in addition, which is probably better, to any donation you make to them, I've created several donation incentives to encourage you to do so, the most important of which is for the minimum donation of $1, you get your name added as a signatory on the letter submitted with boxes and boxes and boxes of hangers in support of this cause. I'll probably add a couple more, but for now, I'd like to focus more on supporting this idea than focusing on a reward. For more information or to read the letter intended to be sent along with the coat hangers, check out the additional information on this page, and feel free to read my online comic, which can be found at http://www.withfetus.com. That's the American spelling for any Brits or Aussies who might be watching this, of FETUS. Thank you so much for any support you can give me. Thank you.